So Vix, when you work with your clients, what is the first approach you take for someone who's really, really trying to come to grips with this, the women that you work with, as far as like the fundamental principles start with in understanding personal finance? How do you take that approach with them?
Yeah, well, where I start, and this is in particular with one-to-one work, is where are you now, and where do you want to be, and and try to identify the gaps. But one thing that comes up a lot is, my work is mainly around the practical side of managing your money, but something I see that comes up a lot is this emotional side, the kind of money mindset issues. And a lot of the time people are coming or women are coming to me and they have a lot of emotions around money, like shame, guilt, fear, anxiety. So one thing I do find is you have to work on that side, the emotional side of kind of managing money, as well as the practical side of managing money. And I always start, one of the first things I always start is whatever financial decisions you made in the past that were wrong, forgive yourself. Because, we can be really hard on ourselves, can't we, sometimes? And I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done that. That's in the past. You're now, you've decided that things are going to change. So forgive yourself for all those past mistakes. So that's one of my, first places I start, which is kind of unusual, but I think it's important.
And it's interesting you say that with emotion, because a lot of that I would imagine, has to do with actual discipline. So, I mean, have you dealt with, clients in the past where having the discipline not to have more than one credit card, max it out, and have that as a compulsion because there are a lot of people in that situation, unfortunately. How do you feed into that way of advising them to stay disciplined with tracking their expenses and, motivating them to stay on track?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my clients are kind of doing mindset works, but really focusing not just on money mindset, but mindset overall, kind of at the same time. So I kind of pick up the money stuff. And you're right, like this whole thing about, having lots of credit cards and emotional spending is a big thing, isn't it? The plastic, fantastic. You go shopping and you spend money and I'll just put up my credit card. I'll worry about it later. I mean, that is really, really common. So it's about trying to understand, what is it that is making you behave in that way? So what are the emotions associated with it that make you behave that way? And if you think about debt, for example, I mean, a lot of people work really hard to get out of debt and they have to be so disciplined to do it. And then what happens? They're back in debt again. And I think there's lots of analogies with, managing money and managing your weight, because it's the same thing. People go on diets and they lose weight, and then it's actually easier to lose the weight than it is to maintain the weight loss. So I think it's the same. There's a really strong analogy between managing your weight and managing your money.
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, in the end, we're all human, and every sort of thing, activity we do, thought, whatever, has some intrinsic emotion attached to it, and it can go either one way or the other, and then everything precipitously affects the outcome of that in the end. So I mean, it's trying to stay within, I would imagine, like a certain thread of your way of being in the end that can either lead to a very good path versus a not so good one. And
the analogy I immediately think of is, if you go on a really strict diet, for example, or a really strict budget, and you can sustain that for a certain amount of time. But, if you deprive yourself constantly, like I can't spend money on this or I can't eat that, then eventually you kind of get frustrated and want to give up. So you're better having something that is to have an approach that's much more sustainable. So allow yourself, even if you've got debt and you're trying to pay back it, allow yourself a little bit of money in your kind of spending plan to have fun, because everyone deserves to have fun.